Jay, you're going to Arizona this week for spring training. Jason Lloyd's out there already. He'll be joining us on the show tomorrow or Wednesday. We're not sure. But Chris Antonetti, the Guardians GM, said over the weekend that part of the reason they decided not to spend money has nothing to do with the team's 2024 TV deal, which is $55 million. Just for comparison's sake, the Dodgers are getting $240 million. But it's because they want to find out which of their young players can succeed in the big leagues. I see Earl smirking. G's giggling like a child over there. Jay, are you buying what Chris Antonetti is selling here?
No, but he's a good company guy.
He is.
I like Chris.
Yeah,
I like Chris a lot.
I feel sorry for him.
I do too. I feel like Chris is an upper echelon executive in Major League Baseball. And a lot of people want to point out that he's, let some players perhaps go a little early, and particularly some outfielders here in the last couple of years, and they've gone on to have some success in other teams' organizations. I get that. You're not going to hit 100%. All you need to do in judging Chris Antonetti is go to the most difficult position in baseball to develop, and that's pitcher, and look at his track record. And there isn't another executive in baseball that wouldn't trade his success record and track record and resume at developing pitchers with Chris. Chris, they've just done a tremendous job. The reason I feel sorry for Chris is because he has to sell the owner's message, because the owner doesn't sell it. The owner doesn't meet with reporters.
He don't even come outside.
Is he inside all the time?
I ain't never seen that man. If you put him on the screen and didn't have a caption, I wouldn't know who he was.
You wouldn't know. You would recognize him.
Swear to goodness, I wouldn't know who he is.
We should play a game and get 3 random
just write
photos
stuff on
and
notes.
call it.
No,
Who's
give it
the owner?
Chris.
You know what's hysterical?
go take it
I would be able to pick. I've interviewed him, but
The Guardians tweeted out 3 pictures expecting big things from these guys, and I almost made it a game show today of who are these 3.
Yeah.
Because I only knew 2 of them. There was a guy I had no idea who he was.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll throw him up here real quick. By the end of this segment, we'll throw him up.
here's the problem, okay? The problem is the owner is the kind of owner that is picking his spots. So if you're the Dodgers and your TV contract is worth $240 million, or you're the Guardians and you're going to get $55 million out of your TV deal this year, which is $1 for every 5 the Dodgers get, how are you supposed to compete with that? There is a major playing field problem in Major League Baseball. Always has been, always will be. Why? Because when the Dodgers and the Yankees make the playoffs, the ratings are higher than when the Brewers and the Tigers make the playoffs. It is good business for the big market teams to be successful. It is bad business for the small market teams to be successful. And as long as that's the case, and that is the case, then Major League Baseball has no incentive to make an even playing field. That's one reason I think the NFL is the most popular league. Everybody asks me, is it the violence? No, I think what it is it's the parity. Even though we haven't had a chance to experience that parity, the league is set up to about every 5 to 7 years, the talent cycle completely washes through. The league is set up for you to be good, and when you're good, it's set up for you to be not as good. And when you're not very good, it is set up for you to be better. And Major League Baseball, as long as you have the haves and the have-nots, and there are clear delineations between the haves and the have-nots, you're going to get trash. So if you're the owner of the Guardians, you can't compete spending-wise with the Dodgers. So what you do is you have to pick your spots. When in the 10-year cycle can I go for it? And we've seen them go for it, with different free agent signings that were helpful and needed. Last year, because of the success they had in 22, which was early, it was ahead of schedule, the owner went out and he signed Zunino and Bell. So those were moves that he thought could get this team over the top. Both of them fell flat on their face. Zunino, I think, is out of baseball. Bell was traded to the Marlins and suddenly became Bell again. So the 2 moves last year were awful. So now the owner's like, I went for it last year and it didn't work. I've got to sit back and see what I have before I decide whether or not I'm going to go all in on spending. I get it, but I hate it.
So for me, Jay, this is me just having a conversation with my homie as a casual baseball fan. I really don't give a damn about them being able to develop pitching, right? You've been developing pitching since I was 13 years old. At this point, tell me something I don't know. To me, I think the Cleveland Guardians continue to be hustling backwards, right? You always trying to nickel and dime this fan base with these rising stars or this farm system when it comes to the offensive side of it, instead of actually taking some real money and going out there and get you a real piece, not even realizing the money gonna come back to you. If you go get a solidified star and you actually spend the money, I can care less about the cap or the market that you pay in. Go spend the money, because if he's that dude, you gonna make that money back in merchandise sales. And I don't know if the chat is gonna feel this or not, or if people is gonna watch and feel this or not. I'm sure you will, but this is Cleveland. We love our professional sports teams. All we want is a quality product on the field. And I swear to God, we gonna show up and we gonna show out every single time. And when I look at the Dolans as an owner, and you look across the landscape of Cleveland, at least Jimmy Haslam tries. Like, go holler at Dan Gilbert. At least he came through with a championship, and yet you continue to sell us on this BS about you want to watch Gabriel Arias develop and see if he got it, right? You finessed J-Ram and taking this contract with the mindset that you was going to build a team around him, and you haven't done so. Like, me and Mike was upstairs talking. We play in the mid-market, and I'm not the most educated when it comes to how the salary cap and how the finances work in baseball. But I do know teams that's mid-market teams like Milwaukee spent more team than us. Baltimore spent more
Cincinnati.
money.
Smaller
Kansas
market
City,
than us.
Cincinnati, Minnesota. So, like, don't give me this BS about you want to just sit up there and wait for this young talent to develop to where you really, really pissing off your fan base. You put a quality product out there, we will come and support it. The math is not hard.
Well, here's the problem with that premise. There were a number of years where the Indians at the time were very, very good in the standings and were near the bottom in attendance. And that stings, being from the Cleveland area and being a baseball fan. This, once upon a time, was, I'm not going to call it a baseball town like St. Louis, but in the mid-90s, what is the retired number of 454 or 455? That's the number of consecutive sellouts this franchise had. Guys, think about that. And when they were selling it out at that size, it was full size. It wasn't the downgraded smaller stadium that it's become. It was 41,000 fans for 455 straight games. Guys, 81 home games a year. That's 6 straight years.
That's my childhood. The Browns wasn't here. The cast was garbage.
Now,
and so for me, not to cut you off, this is why it pisses me off so much, because I know for a fact that things can be much better than what they are. And like, I know for a fact this city will show up and show out, but yet you keep throwing at us in his face these BS excuses about why you don't want to go spend money, and you're going to expect us to spend our hard money
that's fair.
To come down there and support this team. Man, kiss my ass with that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I have, unfortunately, I've heard the fan base is more in line with that this year than any time that I've heard them before. And here's why. They said when they made some moves a couple of years ago, when Frankie was gone, well, we're going to reinvest in this team. We're going to take that money. They haven't. We're continually at the bottom of the payroll in the last tier. And tiers, there's 6 tiers. There's the top 5, then there's number 6 through 10. We're always in the last tier. You're telling the fans not to care, and the fans are starting to listen. And that breaks my heart, because I'm a baseball guy. I want to see baseball succeed in Cleveland. I know it can because I watched it in the mid to late 80s when we sold out 455 straight games. You don't do that on accident. Now, because they had some years in 16 when they almost won the World Series, we were bottom half of the league in attendance. So what that told the owner is, what are you talking about? You told me if I spend, you will come. You didn't. And you told me if we won, you would show up. And you didn't. So I don't know if I call it winner's fatigue. The Atlanta Braves went through this in the 80s and the 90s when they were every single year, they were winning their division. And then they've got one World Series out of all of those great teams, and that World Series happened to come at our expense. They beat us. But I was covering Braves playoff games against the Indians in the World Series that were not sellouts. I don't, and the fans there got fatigue. Oh, you guys keep winning and teasing us, but you never gave us the ship. And I think the Guardians are in that space right now.
I want to like, this is like a real world people question. I'm going to ask this because and a lot of times people think we just be joking, right? Because we're at different points of our careers, right? So finances, as a man gets older, you hit certain brackets and you hit certain figures, and as you work longer, you make more money as you get older. That's just a principle in capitalism. So one of the things that we laugh sometimes about, yeah, Jay got a boat and all these other different things, right? The one of the real questions of it is because you do live in a certain circle and you do know people like this. I got a real question. He's, I believe I do my math correctly, 66 years old, right? If you own a business and you own, if you own a lot of different other things, you say it all the time, man, I'm hitting the finish line. My question is for those business owners, what is the mentality of, I'm going to be frugal? Like, I mean, how many trips can you go on? How many cars can you drive? How many bags? Right. At the end of the day, when you're laying on your deathbed, you remember memories. You remember experiences. So if you're 66 years old and you're a multimillionaire, you're not going to die poor. I believe that you have financial guys that have kept your nest egg correct. You wouldn't be a businessman if you were. My thing is, what good does it do you at 66?
It's a good and fair question. I'll use your line that you use all the time. There's levels to this.
Yeah.
Okay? I believe, and this is just as an observer, I don't have any inside information to his finances. I can only make assessments based on his actions. Mm-hmm. People misunderstand wealth sometimes, okay?
All right.
Jeff Bezos is rich.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is rich.
Mm-hmm.
These are dudes that have endless zeros behind their bank account. Mm-hmm. If they want to buy a team and make it a winner, they can do it. They'll just buy their way to the top. Then there's mid-level rich. And that's guys like Dolan that own the Guardians. He has an asset that's worth a ton of money. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem. It's tied up in the team.
It's not solvent.
He is not solvently rich.
Yeah.
I mean, by our standards, he is.
Yeah.
Okay? But he's not run a Major League Baseball team rich. He's deciding how much money he's going to spend and when he's going to spend it because he's probably going to have to dig into his own pocket. Because the $55 million he gets is trying to compete with the $240 million that the Dodgers' local contract is. So people might look at his net worth. Let me Google his net worth. Well, his net worth is whatever the Guardians are worth. Mm-hmm. That's not liquid. And I believe that with COVID, he ran into a situation where he perhaps was making payroll out of his wealth. And that's not the way they want to operate.
If you don't want to answer this, you don't have to. But in your opinion, because you're the biggest baseball guy on this panel, do you think the Dolans should sell the team?
Yes. I've been begging them to sell the team. And I think that that's in the works. I think with the Blitzer Group and their buy-in 2 years ago, there are clauses and escalators that gives the Blitzer Group an opportunity. Because I don't think the Blitzer Group wanted to be a minority owner. Mm-hmm. That's not his MO. His MO is to own teams. He fully owns other teams. He doesn't want to be, when you're a minority owner, you know what that means? You spend a lot of money, but you have no say. Dolan has 51%. He might as well have 100%. And at some point it becomes welfare. So Blitzer smartly wrote into the deal that he can buy more of the club until he gets to the point where he is the majority owner. I wish we would just cut to the chase and do it now. For the sake of the fans. Like Dolan, I don't know what motivated him to buy the team. In my conversation with him in the past, he was a small guy that played shortstop and had dreams of making the big leagues and didn't. And then, through hard work and being a lawyer, his father and uncle or cousins or whatever it is, they had money. Now he owns the team. Okay. If you can't do right by your fan base and give them a product that has a legitimate chance to win, and you have to tell us this year's going to be a wash. You're saying the loud part out loud. When you say we're going to, or the quiet part, when you're saying I'm going to see what the kids can do before we bring in guys that can stifle their growth, what you're saying out loud to the fan base is, check us out in 25. And I don't, you know.
I got to think. Go ahead.
We deserve better than that.
Before I say something, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm just frustrated.
So they
bro.
tweeted out this weekend, and Jay, you're our baseball guru. They tweeted out 3 pictures of guys, and the quote on the text on the tweet was "big, strong men."
Yeah.
I'm going to show you these 3. Let me know if you guys can recognize who these 3 players are. Let's take the first one, Steve. Do you know who this is?
Oh, that's so far away from me. I can't even.
Who is that?
No.
Is that the guy they got from Tampa in the trade for? I think that could be.
That's not Manzardo.
Yeah, Manzardo. I
That's
don't know
not
who that is.
Manzardo.
I don't know who that is.
No.
I am 74% sure that this is Jonathan Rodriguez, their number 35 prospect.
Hold on.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not
but
sure
the
for
fan
sure.
base wouldn't know who these.
Hold
guys
on.
are.
I know who that is. That's Isaiah Mobley.
Okay,
I wish
next
he had
up.
guns like
They
that.
tweeted 3, Jay, so you'd assume if they're going to tweet 3,
All right.
you should know these guys.
Well, I think though, in defense of them here, this is the whole idea of this exercise is you don't know these guys yet, but you will.
Introduce them.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey.
let's see. Do you guys know number 2 here? This one's a little bigger.
No.
I know this one for a fact. This one is the only one I'm fully 100% confident.
Ain't that dude?
I seen videos of that dude hitting home runs last year in the minor leagues. Didn't he get suspended for fighting or something like that?
That is not George Valera.
No,
Oh,
that is.
That's not him then. I don't know nothing.
His name is a very interesting, unique name.
That's the dude that we had. That's Josh Bell without the braids.
He cut
that
his
is-
hair and he came back.
I hope I'm pronouncing this correct. Jahansky Noel.
No clue who.
Yeah, no, I think you
No.
missed the first name.
It's
No.
Jahonkensy.
Yeah.
I like his change though. I like him,
Jahansky?
yeah, I see his drip.
I'm
I
not
like
sure
his
how to pronounce
swag.
I like his drip. I like it though.
I like
And
his swag.
Last but not least,
Hitty
the
hit.
third, the next of the Guardians' big, strong
Who
men.
knows?
Anthony, take it. Do you know who this is?
Is that Valero?
That is not Valera.
A reject Prince Fielder Jr.
I am 43%
No idea.
confident this is Devison De Los Santos, the guy
Yeah.
they picked up in the Rule 5 draft from the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I thought that was.
Every reply to this tweet was,
I-
who the hell are these 3?
Yeah,
I
but
thought-
that's the exercise of it. What they're doing is they're showing us guys, like if they put Jose Ramirez on there, we all know who Jose Ramirez is. The idea is, you know, we've got guys that we think are going to be exciting and we're going to find
They
out.
purposely
it's
market
all
it.
part of the corporate vision.
Yeah.
We don't want to bring in experienced veterans. We want to see what our young guys that you don't know about yet can be.
It kind of lines up with everything else, with the tweets, with the statements. This was they purposely marketed this way.
1,000%.
Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
We need to see what Yasiel Baerga is all about.
Look, I get it.
The worst part
But
about
the
that
fan
exercise.
base deserves better.
Yes. The worst part about that exercise was I was convinced one of them was Ramon Laureano.
And it was not.
None of them, to my knowledge, are Ramon Laureano.
And look, that's fine. I get it. Teams have prospects. You could do that with all 30 teams. You could show their 3 hottest prospects in the minor leagues, and their fan bases would be like, who the hell is this guy? I don't know this guy. We don't watch minor league games. We don't know what their faces look. We know the names and the stats. That's it.
I'm gonna keep it real, Jay. I was gonna say this before McNuggets started, and you know what? I used to have that burning thing, and the reason I asked you the question I asked you about finances is this, like sometimes, like just put it in perspective. I worked as hard as I ever worked in my life this year. I own like 2 or 3 businesses. I worked so hard. It's the most money I ever made in my life. But at the end of the day, you said something that resonates. Just because you feel like you're doing well, there's levels to it. And every level of wellness you do is another level of wellness you got to pay.
That's true.
And when you start this, you like, oh, this is great. And what I learned, I had the biggest awakening when I did taxes. I had to do them 3 or 4 times. I was like, hold on, what do you mean? Like, and when you're looking into Dolan's, there's a certain thing when you are paying payroll out of your pocket. Like some people operate businesses as a small business, and it is a small business compared to other businesses that just happen to be in Major League Baseball.
You got Home Depot and you got Harry's Hardware.
Harry's Hardware.
And Harry's Hardware isn't going to be able to go into his pocket and pay his entire payroll for 6 months. It's going to put him under. Home Depot knows where the capital sits. They have access to hedge funds and big loans.
Short-term and money infusion.
And I'm sure that's what Dolan did. Dolan probably had to take loans.
Them COVID loans.
Yes, to make his payroll. So what I say is Cleveland deserves an owner that is flush with cash, who can pay what Cincinnati is paying, what Detroit is paying. We're not asking for Dodgers and Yankees. We're asking for other cities like Cleveland, Milwaukee, Cincinnati, Detroit, Kansas City. Let's come up to that level. And instead, we're not getting that. I believe when the Blitzer Group takes over full time, I believe that you'll see this team operate like a real Major League franchise.
You heard it from Jay. Brighter days are on the way. Gee, I want to get one more reading because I got to set you up with something here special. But you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Got 3 super chats real quick, and then